Hi, I'm Gene Bergman, Ward 2 City Councilor, and welcome to Burlington Progressives TV. I'm here with our progressive candidates for the City Council, Milo Grant, Kathy Owell, and Jennifer Moreau.
More direct information about, say, the CAPE program. What does that mean? What is a CSL? What is a CSO? The type of legislation or that governs use of force, and other things like that.
So you've got a lot of experience, though.
I
Right?
have a lot of experience, so there's certainly things that a lot of things that I already know. But there are things that I'm getting exposed to. I especially enjoy meeting people. Like sometimes you read people's names, but you don't always get to see people who are doing the actual work. So I find that to be very, very interesting. For example, there was a presentation from the new recruitment team, and I had not met them yet. So it was great to see two people, one who was a former CSO stepping up as a recruitment coordinator, and then another officer stepping up
It's really
to do
important,
that job.
you know, like you're the head of the Public Safety Committee of the City Council.
That is
And
correct,
you've been
the
a
chair.
police commissioner, and
Yes.
you've been on that special policing committee on their policies and what have you. But knowing the people themselves and having those relationships is critically
It's critical, and it's also interesting to see how things are presented to the people that are there. And sometimes I haven't had a lot of questions because I want to give space for community if they have questions. But, sometimes, trying to make sure we're careful about certain narratives, right? Well, that's the perception. Well, if the perception is in fact, how do we, when we're looking at improving the image of the police department, how do we get where we are with regards to having such a shortage in staff? So I'm looking forward to the future. How long is it? It runs, was it 7 weeks? 8 weeks? Yeah,
It's a big
it's
commitment.
for 3 hours a night. So tonight at the beginning they're doing CAPE, and I just had a presentation from CAPE at the December Public Safety Committee meeting. So I'm not saying I'm missing anything, but Lacey Smith is fantastic, and I actually every time I hear her speak, she is pretty phenomenal. So that's a great presenter. We're doing really great things in the community safety sphere with the way we are expanding our professional positions. We, of course, still need police officers, and we still need to recruit and hire more police officers. But what we're doing is, gaining notice in other areas because it's very unique. So we should all be proud of that.
So let's flip to the question at hand, which is, why are you running for re-election?
Oh my gosh. I feel that, the learning curve for a city councilor is and I feel that I'm still learning certain things, but I'm feeling I've got a good grasp of other things. And at this time in our city, we had 5 city councilors turn over last year. We'll have 2 positions turn over this year, at least 2. That will be a total of 7. That's a lot of new councilors.
Out of 12.
And the company we have here today, I think will be phenomenal out the gate, and has already been talking about really important issues in our city, and observing city council meetings, which I think is really important. But I'm looking at the work. I'm looking at supporting Mayor Emma Mulvaney-Stanek. She has a real vision for this city. She had a very decisive election. But yet I feel at times she's being sabotaged, quite frankly. I think we need more support for her on the council. Partisanship is really bad right now, and we should all be working together across the aisles. So I'd like to see if I can improve that, and have all of us improve that. And I'd like to see if we can, I want to definitely continue my work on community safety. I am still very, very interested in the recruitment and retention issue, and I think we'll have an opportunity to move that forward with the change in leadership. I am also very concerned and continue to be about community engagement and how we need to be improving that, because that will also improve recruitment and retention. And I want people to have a citywide view. People really don't understand fully what is happening in the Central District. So how do we get everyone on the council to be aware of what's happening and understand what's happening in all the parts of the city? Because it will affect them, and it does affect them. And so sometimes decisions are not made in the best interest of Central District.
Right.
And without the full understanding, well, that's going to affect you down the line. You know, we saw the dramatic increase in the drug crisis, and we didn't get solutions, several years ago. I've been watching this for 5 years, and it just kept moving and spreading. And then all of a sudden, everyone's like, where did this come from? When did this happen? It's like, hello. So having a citywide view is going to be really interesting to work on, and also to work on the NIMBYism, which I think is damaging the city. And that's something that we have to talk about as well, especially around the housing development.
So talk a little bit about the other top issues that you've got, affordability we've talked about here.
Yep, affordability. I'm very excited that one of the commitments that Mayor Mulvaney-Stanek made was to talk about property taxes and property tax reform. So she's putting together her tax advisory group, and they'll be starting their meeting soon. I think that's fantastic, because the city has not had a comprehensive conversation about this. When I ask people, okay, when's the last time that happened? I'll wait. There hasn't been, and we have to.
In fact, in truth, the Mayor Weinberger was really not interested in expanding alternatives to the property tax and progressive alternatives to the property tax in particular. I mean, he told me that when I first got elected in 2022, and I said this was an issue for me, and he and his administration and the Democratic caucus did not really get behind it. There are some folks, I think, who will be interested in it. So this is a great opportunity.
This is a really great opportunity, and I think it's really important because along with, the economy of the city is really affected by what people are paying in property taxes, and that of course affects renters as well, because if you're renting, your landlord is passing on what they're paying in property taxes. And it affects our economy because rents have gotten so high. Cost of owning your home has gotten high. Even if you have a fixed mortgage payment, property taxes are going up. That affects what you can spend in the city. Our businesses downtown repeatedly talk about the fact of how they've lost local traffic. They've lost local traffic because the average Burlingtonian can't afford to shop downtown outside of having a meal or going to the coffee shop. And that's really important. And we really need to look at that and examine that so that we are have our businesses thriving. There's been a lot of turnover in the stores. And of course, we're going into a very difficult time of year. After the fourth quarter, which is your largest revenue, you go into your first quarter. What can we be doing to help promote our businesses better? And that's something I think about. I see other areas promoting their businesses a little bit better, and I think we need to be more innovative with some of our ideas. We've got some decent programs who do very well on social media, but we could really be, I think, drawing more from the college students who live in the area and some other ideas as well.
Great. You've got to go real soon. You've been out campaigning, and what are you hearing from people?
I have not been campaigning as much as I've wanted to. Last week, I literally, between meeting with constituents, not necessarily campaigning,
Sure.
but people who
Doing the work.
Doing the work,
Doing the
right?
work.
So meetings in the morning, then I work all day, and then like last Monday was a 7-hour, just about 7 hours for the council meeting itself.
It was.
And then a committee, and then MPA meetings. So there's been this time just spent. I think community safety is a big part of it. I think news will break. I drove past a very troubled location and saw it boarded up today.
In the Central District.
In the Central District, and it was a major source of in the center core, affecting many streets were affected by the activity going there, because when people would go there, get what they felt they needed, they would go to other areas, and that would cause some issues. But I'm always talking to people. I walk downtown a lot. I walk around the neighborhood a lot. You hear about property taxes. You hear about the cost of living. Hear about the high rents. We're losing our young people, and there are young people who really, really love it here. And when I say young, I think I'm talking 25 to 35, when you're really starting to say to yourself, where am I going to be?
Right.
Where am I going to stay here?
Yep.
Am I going to go someplace else? Is this a place? And the lack of housing and the cost of the housing that's available is really causing a lot of people to make what they feel is a difficult but necessary decision, which is to leave. And I think the statistics are behind in that. I think all these young people that have left, my kid being one of them, he was 30 and he was like, can't do this. We have to really think about when those statistics catch up and we know how many people are leaving, it'll be too late. So we have to really think about it now. I mean, we've always been a college town. I think that's great. It's got vibrancy, but we can't just keep recycling. Kids come in, they go out, they come in, they go out, they come in, go out. You used to have people stay. You used to have more people want to stay
I believe that
and
you
make
and
this
I
home.
were in that category.
Right. Yeah. I just, people get mad at me. I get a fair amount. I was thinking about in my campaign literature, putting my hate mail, like things that say, people, go back where you come from.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I've lived in Burlington for 40 years. Where do you think that is? Where would you like me to go back to? So it's interesting.
Yeah. So my sister, I promised that I would get you out at 6:25, and you got.
Thank you.
It goes like that.
It goes like that. Thank you
like
so
that.
much. It is a pleasure to be on the ballot with these ladies. I think we're a formidable force that can really make a difference. And we need more women on the council.
There you go. You didn't have to whisper that. Say that. Yeah, you won't get any pushback from me. Okay, Milo.
Bye, Milo.
Well, here we are. Kathy, Jen, let's turn to you. Unlike Milo, you haven't been on the show before with me, though you might have been on, on a similar TV or not TV show. So, Kathy, you're in the East District. It's wards 1 and 8.
Yep.
You're right in the middle of the table. Let's start with you. In terms of just introducing yourself to people, giving a little bit of a brief personal and political history, and include why you're running.
Okay. Well, I can start out with why I'm running.
Any way you want to do that.
I've lived here for 30 years, or over 30 years, 33 years, I guess. And in wards 1 and 8, in wards 1 for 25. My kids all went to school here. They've left, and now I've gotten some of them to come back. I have 4 grandchildren that also live in Burlington now and are in Burlington schools. And we moved here from Germany because it was a city that my husband, who is German, and myself both felt, coming out of 13 years of living in Germany, that this was the closest thing to anything that we knew from Europe. Politically, just
Interesting.
It was a hard move to make, and so this city made it very easy to move here. So we came because of that, and I got involved right away. In the second year I was there, the people next door, we were living in Ward 7 in the New North End, and they asked me to run for school board there.
Okay.
And I did that and ran and was part of the school board for 4 years in Ward 7. And but at that same time, I am a social worker by trade, and I realized that in the New North End there was nothing for kids up there. I mean, the next closer place was Sarah Holbrook in the Old North End, and kids, I really love working with middle school kids. My oldest was in middle school at that time, and I thought, one day at something at school, I saw a young kid that looked like she was pregnant, and I said to the principal, am I seeing what I think I'm seeing? And she said yes, and she was in 6th grade. And I thought, oh my God. And we had I had seen and heard from my son that there was, pot smoking and alcohol drinking among 6th and 7th graders at Hunt. And so I just said we have to do something, and I got a bunch of parents and teachers together. We got use of the National Guard Armory next door to Hunt, and we started after school having, being open. We got pool table and ping pong and all that, and started a youth center. And it's still there. It's now in what is the Miller Center now.
That's really that's really important, and it's a real credit that you could see a problem, organize people, build a program, and have it last for how many years now?
31, I guess.
And it continues to serve serve a need. Sitting where I am on the city council, and we need people like that. We need people like you to, who have that ability to see problems and create new programs that really meet the needs of people.
And after doing that, I had heard of this big federal grant, and I went to the head of the program from King Street, because I was running this I was using their 501c3. So, and I said to her, should we go to these meetings and see about this grant? It sounds wonderful. And I don't know, for me, I'm coming out of Europe where you don't have to write a grant. It's all,
That's a whole nother conversation that we will have in this show.
So but we had wonderful programming over there, and I studied in Germany, so that was my background. So I kept thinking, God, if we had the money, we could do all sorts of things. So we went to this bidders conference down in Washington and listened to it, came back and went to the schools and said, come on, we have to go at least try for this grant. And they said, well, we did once, but it was only the Old North End. So we said, no, we'll do it for all 9 schools. Well, we didn't. We only did it for 6 in the end, because 3 of them didn't have a high enough SES, free and reduced lunch count, in order to get the grant. And so that was the beginning of all the after-school programs in the district, which are in all 9 now. And
my kids benefited from that, and at Edmonds, Yeah.
And then I realized, well, in summer there's nothing. So I'm going at this from looking at it as a parent and thinking, okay, many people, when their kids hit middle school, they go back to work. And there is no child care for middle schoolers. So if we don't keep them, in organized programming, and a lot of people can't afford it, it's expensive. So the after school, I used the school building for that. So they could still come to the youth center if they wanted to hang out somewhere with their friends. But there were organized programs or off-site programs for them. And then in the summer, there was nothing. And I thought, well, this money is allowed to be used for summer programming too. So we started a summer program where it was 5 weeks in length, and it was free of charge to anybody. And after 2 or 3 years, a woman that I knew that worked at Winooski said to me, Kathy, I'd love my kids to do this. I said, well, we could do it. You could give me some of your Title I money, and then we can afford to go get your kids, bring them out to hunt, and you'll have free summer programs too.
A can-do attitude to solve real problems of the real people that we have. Okay, we're going to pivot to our friend Jen. And is it true that you have not been on a television program before?
Never.
Never?
First time.
Well, you know, like, the thing about local politics is that it is truly as close to the people as you can get, right? And that means that people aren't necessarily politicians, or they're not politicians, you know, at least when they start out. And so, nonetheless, here you are. Thank you. Tell us about you. Tell us about a little bit about your personal as well as your political history, and then weave in also why you're running.
Sounds great. Just before I get into it really quickly, I just wanted to echo Milo, just how inspired I am to be on the slate with Kathy and with Milo. And, you know, Milo's knowledge, her deep knowledge and her care for Burlington consistently amazes me. I learn from her every single time I speak with her. I mean, she's such an asset to the council. And Kathy, you know, the way I know Kathy is through a political campaign that I managed this past summer. And I'm just amazed at your ability to always show up in any way that is needed. Really just, you're there. And that kind of just like, you're like a community rock, and that's just, it's really inspiring. And I didn't even really know this, your kind of Burlington origin story, so it's really nice to listen to it. So just really inspiring to be among such incredible people. So my name is Jen. I'm probably the newest one of the bunch here. I've been in Burlington for about 7 years. Moved here to basically raise my family. My brother-in-law is a professor at UVM, Alex Zakaris, in the poli-sci department. I've been coming to Burlington for years to visit Alex and my sister-in-law, and my partner Michael and I had our first child, and we wanted to root ourselves somewhere where we can grow our family in a community whose values we shared, in a place that we could really call home. And, you know, for me, this region of the country is my home. I'm from a small town in upstate New York. Working class background, dairy farming, service industries, military. My father joined the Marine Corps when I was born to support the family. So I moved a lot growing up. I grew up on very tight-knit military bases all over the U.S., and I also lived in Japan for 3 years during that time. So, you know, kind of like from everywhere, but this part of the country feels like home. So it was really nice for me to kind of return here, and at such a special time of life, having my daughter. She was 15 months when I moved here, and then since we've moved here, I've had, so my eldest daughter is 8, her name is Mia. My youngest daughter is Emmeline, we call her Emmy, and she's 5. My brother, my sister-in-law, and my niece Charlotte live down the street. My mother-in-law Laura lives down the street. We've enticed my partner's Aunt Dahlia to come. My sister-in-law's parents are moving here in the spring. My mom's going to come here when she retires in like 3 years. So we're bringing everybody with us to Vermont because we love it here that much. And so, I mean, so I guess that just brings me to why I'm running. You know, just like everyone here, you know, we all love Burlington and we want to see it thrive, and we really want to see ourselves in the future here. And, you know, my youngest daughter, she's 8, or sorry, my eldest daughter is 8, and she's going to be graduating from high school in 10 years, which kind of blows my mind to even think about that.
Gonna go like that.
I know, right? I know. And so I'm thinking about, you know, what kind of a place is Burlington going to be in 10 years? And I really want it to be a place that she feels proud of, that she feels like she identifies with, and that we all feel good about. And, you know, Burlington is, I mean, I feel good about Burlington's future personally. I think that there's a lot of wonderful people, a lot of exciting, innovative ideas going on right now, and I look forward to what the future will bring. But, you know, it is difficult right now. There's a lot of challenges and, you know, a lot of work that needs to be done. So, you know, I care a lot, like Kathy and like Milo and like Jean, I care a lot about showing up for community and basically contributing in the ways that I think that I can. and the ways that I think that I can help. And so, I have certain skills and professional experience that I think is really well suited to this moment in Burlington. So I'm public health trained. I got a public health degree from Columbia, and I work with physician scientists on their research, looking at the social and structural determinants of health. And so basically what that means is we look at how the conditions of our lives, so where and how we're born, where we grow up, where we work, where we age, how these things shape our physical and mental health across the lifespan. And so part of that is also looking at how social and economic policies also can kind of shape health and well-being, either to help it or to undermine it. And so a lot of my work is in the harm reduction space. We deal with a lot of issues with vulnerable populations like houselessness, poverty, food insecurity, mental health conditions, substance use is definitely a big one. So I have a lot of knowledge of that space. I understand the evidence base pretty well about what we know about harm reduction and holistic approaches to some of these issues. I also, for the past 5 years or so, I've been working in the climate change space. So part of this work of understanding what are the determinants of our health has kind of moved me into the space of looking at how climate change shapes our health, especially among vulnerable groups. So looking at how things like rising temperatures, wildfire smoke, extreme weather events and disasters and things, how these are shaping not just physical health, but mental health, and again, in all age groups. And it's, when I first started working in this space, it was a pretty nascent area, and it's been growing quite a bit since then. But it's a really interesting space because many people can kind of relate to this in a way. Health is more of like a neutral language when we talk about climate change. It's less politically charged than some of the other politics around it. And so it's a way that you can connect with people, you can make climate change real for them, and you can actually get some really ambitious and innovative policies kind of passed, and you can make sure that climate resilience policies are done in a way that prioritize health and well-being, which is sometimes not really thought about when we're thinking about why we should be reducing carbon emissions, et cetera.
So
Yep.
follow that with what, when it comes down to it, you're seeing are your top issues,
Yeah.
for the campaign, but also just for Burlington as you're going around.
Absolutely. So I've been doing quite a bit of door knocking, which I have to thank publicly my partner, Michael, my dear partner, because he is doing the lion's share of childcare and domestic responsibilities right now.
My wife, Wendy, filled that role for me, so
Wendy is another wonderful person who really shows up for community in all the ways.
It does not. Wendy, the indomitable Wendy Coe.
Yes. Absolutely. Indomitable is a great description, actually.
Yep.
Well, hopefully I'm also indomitable. I have been door knocking even in these very cold temperatures, which is very impressive to people, but then also they invite me in because it's just too miserable to open the door.
Yep.
And so then I get to have better conversations. But I mean, I'm door knocking 6 days a week, quite a lot. I take it very seriously. I really enjoy connecting with members of the community and having conversations, even if they're hard conversations. And many of them are, to be honest. I mean, we're facing a situation in Burlington right now that people across the political spectrum are very unnerved by, in terms of the fentanyl crisis, the housing crisis, the affordability crisis. Two of the things that I hear the most in the South End, where I'm running in wards 5 and 6, are about affordability, particularly among renters. I hear this a lot. And then also just the community safety crisis, especially downtown. And basically saying, I think that the general perception of a lot of people is like, look, this is a really thorny issue. It's really hard. There's a lot of moving parts. And so what do we do here? And I think a lot of people understand that only having one kind of response isn't really the way, but I also think that people are seeking reassurance that the direction that we're heading in is the right one, that we are doing things that are going to get us results, et cetera.
So I mean, and so this is in your background too, the social determinants of health. It means that you deal with root causes, if that's what you want to call them, or all these other things that lead people to do stuff that is, say, non-social or anti-social or harmful to both themselves and the people that are around them and folks that they have no clue about. And yet, are you hearing that a receptiveness to or an understanding that you can't really solve this problem just by sweeping people up and throwing them in jail and then sort of like forgetting about them?
Yeah, I think so. I think that I think sometimes that is an impulse of just of thinking like, gosh, like this thing is just too big of an issue for us. There's really nothing else we can do but that. And so what I try to offer in that situation is saying, look, you know, kind of piecing together like, so when you talk about root causes, for example, what I like to talk about is that, you know, there are, 300 people or so downtown, which gets the lion's share of the attention because that's what's in public. And so typically when people are referring to the situation downtown, they're referring to this group of people. And so it would be an easy argument to sweep people up and to kind of remove them if it was just an argument of like, oh, well, that was just 300 bad apples. Once you remove, that's, then it's done. But, we know that that's not the issue, actually. I mean, the fentanyl crisis alone, even if there wasn't a houselessness or a crime corollary, it would still be a public health crisis. It's the worst substance use crisis we've seen in this country. It's really astronomical, and that would require a response regardless. But I work a lot, so I'm a coordinator for the Old North End Mutual Aid Network, which started during the pandemic and has continued all of these years. And I also volunteer a lot with my daughter's school. She goes to Integrated Arts Academy in the Old North End. So I'm a classroom volunteer there. I work with the children. I have been since she was in kindergarten, so this is now 3 years in. I've known these kids since they were young, so I get to know their families. And of course, what we're seeing over is like the acute spillover effect downtown. But there's a lot behind the scenes. There are so many people in town who are on the verge of spilling over or are just in an untenable situation, right? I mean, we talk about affordability as in like, oh, just being able to kind of use your paycheck to pay for things. But I mean, we are so far from thriving, right? We're like right on the razor's edge. Yeah. And that's a root cause. That's really a problem that's affecting a lot of people. And unless we address those things, and of course that can happen in tandem with ensuring, that we are addressing kind of things in the moment downtown in ways that are appropriate and compassionate and also effective. But basically, unless we're also getting at the root causes, it's just going to be a cycle that continues.
Whack-a-mole, or just like being on a treadmill.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like I said, I mean, I hope to be here.
Yeah.
For years. And so and we all do, right? So we should be invested in making sure that we are also. So to me, it's like I think about kind of a big toolbox of a variety of things. Some of them are for the moment now, and some of them are chipping away at these issues for the future.
So let's talk to Kathy, because we, believe it or not, are running close in time. We probably only have 10 minutes or so. So your top issues, Kathy, and what are you hearing from people as you're on the campaign, starting?
What I'm hearing from people is the same as what everyone else is. It's the drug use, the homelessness. What are we going to do about it? And it's a huge problem, as you say, and I none of us have quick fixes, but I certainly think that we need to look at treating these people as human beings, getting them to safe places if it need be to shoot up with clean needles, because once you start using bad needles, or dirty needles, should I say, and not paying attention to how they're shooting up and how much they're shooting up, you have all sorts of other health crises around that that we don't need. And in the end, I feel personally that it's more important to make sure those people that it's not healthy to be taking this stuff anyway, but then don't make it any worse than it is. But we also, food and being able to feed people. I mean, the people I see out on the streets, I mean, sometimes I come out of the grocery store and I just kind of give them groceries because I don't know what else to do. I mean, they're in the freezing cold sitting out there with nothing warm to eat or drink. And
it is amazing that the governor has a shelter program that doesn't open up emergency shelters unless it's 20 below. I really cannot I cannot conceive of a humane society that would allow that to happen, regardless of the issues that individuals have, and it's truly amazing. And yeah, right.
Well, just to the point, just about that treating people as humans. I mean, I do hear a lot a kind of like, I don't think it's always intentional, but a kind of like those people downtown, kind of like as in like they're not really like they're different. They're not really a part of our community. And I do understand some people do come into Burlington from other areas because of the resources here. But for me, like, those are my people. I mean, I have people in my family who have struggled with substance use disorders. Those are a lot of people's people. I mean, the thing about the fentanyl and the opioid epidemics have been that they transcend social classes, backgrounds. I mean, since I've moved to Burlington, something that I found shocking is how often I see young people in the obituaries here. Yeah. Either because of in like 20s and 30s, and it's almost always because of substance use or mental health related to substance use. And I mean, these are our people. These are family members, you know.
Yeah.
And. And I just think that we have to remember that, even though it's hard sometimes to do that in the moment.
There, but for the grace of God go I, as I say. Each one of us, it really walks a line that, and anybody who says that they don't really is fooling themselves and we're trying to fool you. We actually had a couple of questions that were emailed. This used to be a live show, but this is now quasi. And one person has asked, given the state of our country, what will you do as a city councilor to ensure that trans and queer people are safe in our city? Your thoughts?
You know, what I would exactly do, I hope to God that we understand that they're just like all the rest of us. I mean, I don't know why someone's sexuality should make it any different anyway. But personally, I can come, support them when I see that this is not happening. And as a city, not allow a lot of this to go on. I mean, we do have laws. We can make that something that is not allowed, and fine people for, or go after them legally for anything they do.
Jen?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I think that this is a moment where, and I think that this is actually like widely agreed upon across political spectrum. Like, this is a moment where in Vermont we all really need to come together and stand together, because the next 4 years are going to be very, very difficult for many people. And so what I would say is, again, like a specific policy, I don't know, in terms of how I would orient myself as a city councilor facing the next, couple years that I would be on the council, is basically like being, staying the course, being in communication with various kinds of advocacy groups that are working with these groups and then kind of have their ear to the ground, being in communication with state legislators who are also at the state level working on this, and just making sure that our lines of communication are open, that we are collaborating, and that we are committed to protecting all vulnerable groups during this time.
Yeah, there are a lot of facets to the discrimination, to the hate, and we've got to, in my mind, be able to address all of them. Some of them are just in terms of resources and in public pronouncements. Others are making sure that we're taking down hateful graffiti, for example, and the like. There are some changes that we've made. We have a question that relates, and I'm not going to read it all because we only have a couple of minutes, that relates to housing. And the governor today is calling for changes in our housing development laws to restrict the appeals to housing developments. And this question is about that. But I just want to, because most of what the governor is proposing really affects non-Burlington, the places outside, because we're already developed, we've changed our zoning. There's, the question that I have for you is, having heard Milo and knowing the housing crisis, your thoughts about moving forward. We've got a neighborhood code that we're going to continue to be working on. We've got issues related to the siting of emergency shelters. So there's a whole host of things that we're faced with. We're going to have a South End development, you know, that it maybe have 1,000 people in it. Just your thoughts about the development of housing in the city of Burlington, Jen.
Should My philosophy in general is about housing is that often we orient ourselves around the goal that everyone should own a home. I personally, my philosophy is everyone should have a home or shelter. Doesn't really matter if it's an owned home, everyone deserves to have a home that is safe, cozy, affordable, etc., and shelter over their head. So that being said, I think in Burlington we need to be investing in affordable housing throughout the entire housing continuum. So that is shelters of various kinds, including low barrier or no barrier shelters, all the way to different kinds of rental units, including different sizes, because sometimes, you know, I think a lot of rental units tend to be around 1-bedroom studios. We need more with more multi-bedroom apartments for families, and then also home ownership. And people can move through the spectrum at different times. People could only rent, maybe people rent first and then they own homes, but basically we need a variety of things to meet a variety of needs. And I think that sometimes density is better from a climate perspective in the sense of building up and kind of keeping everyone in one space. It's just a smaller footprint than having one family in a big house. And that's just a reality in this world that we're facing with the climate crisis. And so thinking about that kind of smartly is, I think, important moving forward. And I know that sometimes multi-unit buildings are kind of thought of as being not terribly nice places to live. I think when done well, they can actually be really nice sources of community for people. But of course, you want to develop them well in that way.
Right. Kathy?
No, I feel much the same, and I do think that affordability is the thing that we have to make sure that we build first, because we have no affordable housing in this city, really, when you think about it. And I don't know whether that is an ordinance that before anything else is built, we really look at affordable housing, and that has to, you know, I don't know how many units we need, but we need, pardon?
Thousands.
Yes, okay, but first that they get built before we build anything more, because we have enough unaffordable housing in this city right now. We need affordable housing for families, and that, I think, should have preference.
We have about a minute left. So, your closing thoughts, 30 seconds. It's almost an elevator pitch.
Would you like to go first?
I hope you will consider me when you're voting.
So, and I think that we have actually given, there's Kathy's information there. This is perfect timing.
Working things. I love it, so good.
And Jen, there is yours. This is how people can get to contact you with questions.
Please reach out anytime. I have a lot of meet and greets and things scheduled. I do bi-weekly coffee hours down in the South End at Brio and at Nomad for folks if they just want to drop in and say hi, ask me any questions. So it's all available on my website, and honestly, you can reach out to me anytime by email or by phone, or you can even just come knock on my door. Great.
That sounds great. Maybe Jordan, we can get those, or Kevin, we can get those one more time up there, and then we'll call it a wrap. See, there we go.
Woo.
There's yours, Jen, and there's yours, Kathy. And I want to thank you both. For being here. I want to thank the folks at CCTV, Town Meeting TV. You guys are always great. Kevin, you're amazing back there. And again, we will see you next week for Burlington Progressive TV. Thanks. Stay warm.